Good evening, Queen's Voice. Peter Cafalis here once again at our favorite haunt, the Jackson Diner here in Jackson Heights on Northern Boulevard. So I want to thank Peter and the owners and the staff for always being hospitable. Plenty of parking, 24 hours, good food. Come down if you guys are hungry in the Queens area. Today, we have a special guest who's a New York fixture. We're here with Curtis Sliwa, founder of the Guardian Angels, as well as a GOP mayoral contender against Mayor Adams coming up in 2025. Curtis, thanks for coming in today. We appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. So obviously you ran last time. I know you took the Regal Park Forest Hills area, and Mr. Adams did not do too well there. I don't think he'll do well again there. How are you feeling about going into this race? What are the people telling you in Queens and throughout the boroughs?
Well, remember, when I ran against Eric Adams, he had no track record. He was the guy that said, oh, he was the cop for 22 years. And I kept saying, he's a house mouse. He was always in the precinct. Wasn't an active cop. Didn't bust his shoes. Had no collars.
That's Chucky.
Right. So fine. He's good at taking tests, get his white shirt. That's white shirt immunity once you're in the police department.
He has nice penmanship, maybe?
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that you know the streets. See, he gives you the concept that he's a street smart guy. But I got to tell you, Eric Adams is not street smart.
No.
Me, that's my whole life. And in forming the Guardian Angels and patrolling with the Guardian Angels, not just here, but all over the world now, I consider myself far more experienced when it comes to engaging in crime fighting than Eric Adams, who is totally into analytics. If you force the analytics to say the crime is down, you could pretend, as he says, we're not surviving, we're thriving.
Yeah.
See, the only person that I know who thinks we're thriving, and there's plenty of people who don't even think we're surviving. That's why they're continuing the exodus out here. So my whole concept is improve, don't move.
Yes.
But you got to be an example of that. He's not. He's the nightlife mayor. He parties to the break of dawn.
Hollywood mayor.
While I bust my shoes and I ride the subways to the break of dawn. So people always vote for the opposite. So for instance, we had Jimmy Carter. Yep. They voted for strength, Ronald Reagan.
Oh, yeah.
We had Barack Obama, the intellect. They voted for Donald Trump. Then they voted for Biden. Now they'll probably vote for Trump. It's always in reaction to what is. And so now, the one thing I always hear about Eric Adams, even from his own peeps, his own constituent, African Americans that helped elect him mayor, is the guy spends too much damn time partying. Yep. He needs to focus on being mayor. And if you were doing a good job, nobody cares. In New York, nobody cares.
Who cares?
As long as you're not caught with a little boy, in a closet, nobody cares. But because things are so dismal, and all they see this guy, I mean, look, if you want to be an influencer like the TikTok girls and the Kardashians, there's a road to do that.
And not as mayor.
No, not as mayor. And he sold everybody a false bill of principles. I call it tricknology in the streets. So that if you look at a place like Brownsville where the bullets are flying, he's not coming there. And he always claims, I'm from the Ville, never ran, never will. But he doesn't go there because there's no high roller nightclub in which he can get wine, dine, and parking lot.
No famous people to rub elbows with.
Exactly. Yeah. Club Zero Bon, Con Sofrito.
Downtown.
You name it. If there's a brand new club opening up, a restaurant, he's there because everything is free on the cuff.
Must be nice. Must be nice. So you're a New York guy, obviously. Is it safe to say, in my personal opinion, I live in Queens almost 50 years, grew up, born and raised. I've never seen New York this bad. A lot of criminals we have here already with the influx of the illegal aliens that are bringing a lot of these organized gangs and criminal elements. I just feel it's the worst I've ever seen. The filth, the garbage, the subway, the perverts. It's just a shit show. Would you agree, or?
Well, you can look at it two ways. In the late 70s, you had a lot of street gangs. That's when I started the Guardian Angels. The best way to get an idea, if you never knew what New York was like then, is to watch the cult movie classic, The Warriors.
Yep.
It's about how gangs controlled Brooklyn and the Bronx, which they really did. There weren't enough cops. Today, even though we have gangs, it's not as significant a problem as are the emotionally disturbed persons.
The crazies.
They're everywhere. They react. They're a danger to themselves, everyone else. On hot days like we're dealing with now, they hydrate. Nobody thinks, hey, let me give them water so they can dehydrate. And that's when, if they have if they're manic depressive or they have bipolar disorder or they're schizophrenic, and I deal with these people all the time, that's when all of a sudden they're a danger to themselves and more importantly, a danger to you, your family, and everyone else.
Sure.
Now, add to that the migrant situation, the illegals, $4 billion we've spent, our money, and they're treated better than our own homeless and more importantly, our own homeless veterans.
Yep, it's disgusting.
And with some of them, the Venezuelans and now increasingly the Ecuadorians, we see that there are organized crime cartels that have brought people in and they're committing the crime. It's very similar to when, if you ever saw the movie Scarface.
Oh, yeah.
Al Pacino.
Oh, yeah.
The Mariolitos. The Cubans came over. Fidel Castro decided to cut his losses. He said, I got insurgents in the streets. I want to get rid of them. But I want to, in the meantime, get rid of my criminals in the jail and those who are mentally ill from my insane asylum.
Send them to Miami.
I got the sucker on shore in Florida, Jimmy Carter,
Yep.
you know, our first holy roller president. He accepted them all, 120,000, and we had a crime problem for 10 years, a decade. And when you look at Scarface, that's what it's all about. When you hear Pacino talking, he says, yeah, I was a Mariolito. I want my rights. Jimmy Carter said, I have rights here. And I'm telling you, the Venezuelans have done the same thing because Maduro was under siege. He had dissidents, a lot of criminals, gangs, and he had the mentally ill in his insane asylums. He just took a page out of the playbook of Fidel Castro,
yeah.
released them all, helped them get to Central America so they can continue the trek. And now, even if you can deport them, he won't take them back.
No.
So guess what? They're with us forever. Forever.
Well, hopefully not, but hopefully there'll be a way to get rid of them.
Nope, they're here forever. You can't. What are you going to do? The UK actually leases Rwanda and tells their illegal aliens, we're going to send you to Rwanda. Now, you can't even find it on a map. Last time we heard of Rwanda and Burundi, there was almost 1 million people killed.
Some civil war.
Hacking them with machetes. Trump has suggested the same thing. We'll find some other place to send. You're never going to do that. And number two, a lot of them are here to stay. Now, some you'll be able to deport.
Yeah.
Most ain't going nowhere because right now, while we're talking, they're fornicating and copulating without Jimmy Caps. They're going to drop the baby, and it's going to be an anchor baby. And remember how you had the program, Who's Your Daddy?
Yep.
You know, where every guy would say, it's not my baby, not my baby. Maury, it's not my baby.
Yeah.
The Venezuelans and the others, that's my baby, even if it's not theirs. They want it because if it's considered their baby,
Pathway to
you ain't
citizenship.
deporting them.
Yeah.
And especially Republicans and conservatives who believe in maintaining the family. What are you going to do? Take daddy and send them back to Caracas if they ever take them and keep mommy and the baby here? It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. We got a huge problem that's going to be with us for a long time.
And considering ICE is not, we don't have cooperation with them, we don't allow them here unless they kill 20 people, we don't bother picking up the phone to call them. What would you do, let's say tomorrow you win the mayor chair, you're sitting there, I know you're going to have to deal with the city council who are a bunch of radicals and crazies, a lot of them, but you have to find some consensus. And then we spoke the other day on the phone, but what would you do to just get ICE involved and get at least the worst of the worst out of here?
You don't need consensus. You can just do it and then tell them in the American tradition, find all those lawyers who practice their martial art, I sue all day, and sue me. Sue me. I'll take you to court. I'll fight it.
So let the council sue.
Adams never challenges them. So a simple thing. You have a computer that is run by ICE that has 2 million men and women on the International Terror Watch. 2 million. NYPD is not permitted to plug into that computer.
So we haven't learned anything after 9/11?
Well, we don't want to. We make the same mistakes over and over. So it was Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo who called ICE thugs and basically set the tone so that nobody should deal with ICE in the state or in the city. Not the corrections, not criminal justice, not police. So now they are told you can't work with ICE. If I got a police department, I'm going to tell you work with ICE. Openly or under the radar screen, we must protect our people. And do you know I would be a champion to the people?
Oh, 100%.
Because you get Adrian Adams and all the Democrat Socialists of America suing me, right? Say, yeah, this is illegal what you're doing. Go ahead, sue me. Put me on Rikers. Go ahead, watch. The people will say, no. He's right. But you see, Adams has no balls.
No.
He has no balls to take on the very people who he should be naming and shaming. Alvin Bragg. Now let's look. Why is he not taking on Alvin Bragg? Alvin Bragg is the DA of Manhattan. Alvin Bragg
funded.
snatched up Eric Ulrich, took those phones right out of his hand, who should never have been buildings commissioner. That's like putting the wolf in the chicken's coop. Guy with a degenerate gambler, owes $600,000 to the Bonanno crime family.
Yeah.
What does he do? He makes him buildings commissioner. So when Alvin Bragg snatched up Eric Ulrich in the Rockaways, took his phones.
Took Adams' phones too?
That's right. Yeah. But first he took Eric Ulrich. And you know they all want Eric Adams. Notice, how long ago was Eric Ulrich snatched up and indicted? Almost too long ago to forget, right?
12 months, at least 12 months?
No, longer than that.
Longer.
We're going close to 2 years.
Wow.
And that means he's cooperating.
So he's a canary.
He's a confidential informant. George Santos, right? Look how long ago he was indicted. How come he hasn't been put on trial? That'd be a one-day trial. Because idiots, Republicans, call him up on his cell phone. You might as well be talking to the FBI. He's wired up like a Christmas tree. You got to have street smarts. And that's one thing I've learned over 70 years.
So these guys are canaries, and that's why they're out.
Well, why not? You got the goods on them. They're never going to be able
Everybody's
to defend
calling them.
But they make a deal. Say, oh, I see you got a lot of phone calls coming in, because that's why they take your phone. They got the chip. They know everyone you're talking. They put the chip back and say, you keep talking to them, but we're going to wire you up. And if you don't
go easy on you.
Right, exactly. They want a big fish. They want a whale. And the whale in New York City is Eric Adams. With George Santos, it could be any number of whales. Republicans, Democrats, business people, whomever.
Donors.
That's why, if you notice, neither Eric Ulrich or George Santos has gone to trial yet. Yet, look, Menendez is already on trial. Look at all the people. Trump, how many times was Trump on trial already?
He's been indicted more than Capone.
Right, so you say, Eric Ulrich, boy, he was indicted a long time ago. George Santos, a long time ago. When they're out and about, as I tell all of my associates, some of them who tell me you don't know what you're talking about, go ahead. Have a conversation with George Santos or Eric Ulrich, and you might as well be talking directly to the FBI.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I didn't realize that happened that long ago. It feels like it was more recent times.
Well, but you see, they want the whale, and the whale is Eric Adams. And that's why Eric Adams never names and shames Alvin Bragg, because he operates government in Manhattan County, and Alvin Bragg could issue subpoenas, have a grand jury.
Get him in court.
And Team Adams is going to throw him under the bus. You don't think they're all going to go to jail for Eric Adams?
It looks like some of his friends at the Turkish government did that.
Look, he uses women to carry the booster bags. That means when he did his political fundraising with foreign governments or locals, he never touches the money. It's always a woman who comes with the booster bag. And notice, everyone who is on the radar screen of the FBI or one of these women
had their houses raided and their offices.
That's Winnie Greco, a.k.a. Winnie the Pooh, at the World Mall in Flushing, 2 houses in the Bronx. And she's going to give him up. She ain't going to jail for Eric Adams.
I don't think anybody is. They'll give him. They'll talk. So obviously, I think most of the population believes he's corrupt, incompetent, not up to the task to run the city. It's a little sad and strange. He was a captain for a long time, but like you said, maybe he's great at paperwork and administration, but obviously he's not street smart. He doesn't have his nose on the street. We talk to people all the time. They're very concerned about the crime, the filth, the infrastructure. I mean, the whole city's crumbling, unfortunately. What would be the first, like if you had a list right now, what are the first couple things you're going to sit down and just bang on right away? Like you become mayor tomorrow, what are like the first things you would do to get us on the right course, so to speak?
Well, first off, they'll tolerate corruption, New Yorkers, because they believe all politicians are corrupt, Republicans or Democrats. I love this, no. Let me tell you, I tell all my colleagues, they think you're all corrupt. They think I'm corrupt. The moment you kiss your first baby and shake your first hand, you're a politician, you're corrupt. But if you're providing services, they figure that's the vig you pay. You let them put their beak in the trough as long as they keep things. So the first thing you got to do, you got to show visibly you're doing something. Shoplifting, everybody's seen that.
Oh my God.
So immediately you crack down on it. And people will see that and they'll say, whoa, they're treating it seriously now. And you can lock them up. I don't care. The DAs are all weak. They're all soft. They cut them loose. You just keep locking them up. Eventually, it catches up with them. Number two, fare jumping.
Oh,
Fare evasion. 20% of the people don't pay their fare in the subways. 40% on the buses.
it's crazy.
And the whole reason for congestion pricing is to make up for the $750 million you lose at the turnstiles and in the buses.
Well,
so
you're the only one who said that so far that we spoke to. So
But
it's true.
Right, 750. And now Hoku has put it on pause.
Till after the election.
Of course. And then they're going to hit you.
And even if we got the congestion, I believe in my heart of hearts, and I think most people we engage, that money's not going to get used to the MTA. They'll use it for illegal aliens to convert the hotels or some other pork barrel stuff or some nonsense. So even if they do get that through, it's not going to fix the MTA. Every time they raise a toll on the bridge or the MTA, it's going to fix this, but what changes?
Remember the acronym, MTA, Money Taking Agency. They take your money and you get ugats in return. You get the service is worse.
Yeah.
And it's falling into the abyss. The other thing, the most visible thing you could do right away is clean up all the garbage.
Oh,
People will see that. Get rid of the graffiti. People now they'll have hope. Oh wow, I can actually see some major differences that don't require a lot. It just requires a lot of good old-fashioned elbow grease. That means you get out there, people see that they're working, they're sweeping, they're cleaning up. And then the next thing, because you can't get rid of the migrant. I know Trump says, I'm going to send 8 million back, not Guatemala. They ain't going back. The moment they drop an anchor baby, they ain't going back. They're here. But in the meantime, you make sure, hey, pal, you're following rules and regulations like our homeless. There is a curfew 10 o'clock at night. And you better mind your P's and Q's, because if you get in trouble, we're going to jam you up. And then we will turn you over to ISIS.
Nice.
Number two, the motorbikes.
Oh my God.
I mean, Vespas, that's it. Snatch them up, you ain't getting it back.
Because I know if I was driving around in my car without plates, I'd probably been pulled over 15 times since I got here.
It's anarchy, this lawlessness, and it's learned behavior. So if you see that nobody is obeying the rules and regulations, then you figure, what am I, a schmuck? What am I, a putz? And Eric Adams will give a speech, and everybody will go, oh, he's trying.
He took one off the street, they crushed 20 of them. Yeah, big
Right,
deal.
it's all PR.
It's a Band-Aid.
So you have to show specificity how you made it different. 34th Street, that whole area, Herald Square, is an open sewer. 8th Avenue from 32nd to 57th, that whole corridor. All of a sudden, people will say, wow, this guy ain't fooling around. And you don't go out and nightlife. Your nightlife is the subways and the streets. So that's how you make a difference. People will see you, and in this day and age where all of a sudden, they're going to be click, 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 click. They're going to be sharing. They're going to be bombing your photo. People will know, wow, you're out there. You don't need the media to follow you.
Yeah.
People will follow your exploits. They'll film you, they'll video, and they'll blast it out.
They'll see you doing the right thing.
That's how people get their information now. This whole concept, the normal network news. No. Cable, are you kidding? Hipsters, millennials are cutting their cable.
Yeah.
Most people get their information social networking. The guys who grabbed that Ecuadorian who had raped a 13-year-old, you know how they saw the video? On Instagram. They would watch TV. They didn't watch it on Telemundo or Cal 4147. It's all social networking. Take advantage of that. And all you got to do is be visible, and people will get the message out because they'll be spreading it. And this way, people will feel like, wow, he's a mayor of all the people.
Now, we spoke about earlier the exodus. Unfortunately, families, individuals, businesses. Look at the Rite Aids, the Dwayne Reeds throughout Queens in particular. I can think of 20 off the top of my head that are gone. In Regal Park, we just lost one, I think $500,000, $600,000 in shop with 1 year.
Yep.
So obviously these companies are sitting around saying, well, it's a high cost to operate. Our guys are getting beat up and stabbed, the workers, they're stealing everything. So they're going to other states, so, they're not going to come here. What do we do to get them back, if at all? And secondly, what can we do where, I know you said keep locking them up, which I'm for, but can we change the law where, okay, you can't get locked up 50 times for looting a Rite Aid or a Dwayne Reed? Can we set some kind of law here? And obviously we need the city council, somebody to cooperate with you, but...
Well, you got threefold. You got the state, which has more control over us than the city council.
Hapless Hokum.
This is not, we don't have home rule. State runs most of what we do. Right now they have a veto-proof majority in which they determine our fate. So rather than think you're going to somehow convince them of the wrongs of their ideologies, say hardcore socialists, they don't agree with me, So I go to war with them. And the way I go to war with them is while I'm doing all these initial improvements, I'm building a bench to challenge them with moderate Democrats. That's right, moderate Democrats, because if you had to find all the Republicans in New York City that haven't been dead or haven't fled to Florida, you could fill up a closet. You know what you could fill Democrats in? Citi Field, Yankee Stadium, Barclay, and Madison Square Garden. They outnumber us like 9-1, and then independents. They're 3 times more independents than there are Republicans. And Republicans, they do one thing very effectively in New York State and New York City. They run to lose. They run to lose. Give you an example. AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, leader of the Socialists of America. Boricua, right? Puerto Rican. Who do we run against her? First we run an Irishman, now we run Tina Forte, Italian. You think with all the great Puerto Ricans out there who are citizens by birth,
Find one.
some of whom are Republican,
Get one of them.
they would run against her because you got to speak the lingo. All politics is ethnic. It's been that way forever. You don't get a Puerto Rican to run against AOC. You're going to run an Italian. You're going to run an Irishman, Conmeans. You're going to get killed. You're going to get slaughtered. Look at this guy Dolan. I'm from Wall Street. I'm going to challenge her in the primary. Where do you think that's going?
We actually did a few interviews with a nice guy, but we did see the results this morning. He was creamed.
Correct.
Creamed.
But what? You got to know your districts. And so if you want to beat the Democrats, and especially the Democratic Socialists of America, you better start putting boots on the ground. It's a lot of Republicans don't even know their districts. The Democratic Socialists of America, they have a formula. Know your enemy. They're young, they work hard by day, and they party to the break of dawn. And they hook up and they socialize, which means then they want to come back. The young Republicans do that, right? You think they're all there, they're just knocking on doors. Are you kidding? They're half in the bag, they're hooking up, and then they want to come back the next day. Because if you don't give young people a chance to socialize and party and have a good time, they're not worker bees. They're just not. And now you look at typical political apparatchiks. They're beat up. They're very negative. You know, they have no positivity. You look at these Democratic Socialists of America. They made fun of AOC and Bowman dancing on the stage. Guess what? That appealed to young people. They're not trying to appeal to the old Alta-Caucus like Bernie the Alta-Caucus Sanders, who would have had a heart attack if we did that on the stage.
Probably.
Understand your enemy. You want to make fun of them? Go ahead, make fun of them. You go to sleep on them, pretty soon they'll control New York City, and it'll be the epicenter of socialism and not capitalism.
So we're in a lot of trouble in the city, in the state, like you mentioned. And I get what you're saying. Instead of trying to forge some relationships with the regime in Albany, let's say, the swamp in Albany, you just figure, hey, let's just do it our way and try to replace them with people that would fit in those areas, like you mentioned AOC. Is there anybody right now in the New York City races coming up, anyone on the GOP ticket that you do like, that you feel has a good chance?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was the first mayoral candidate ever to win the Asian vote. Rudy, with all of his charisma, couldn't win the Asians against Stinkins, and then Ruth Meshuggah, a messenger, a real Meshuggah. Then Michael Bloomberg, with his billions, couldn't buy the Asian vote. Couldn't buy the Asian vote
Couldn't buy a lot of things.
Reed, right? Fernando Ferrer and Billy Thompson couldn't win the Asian vote, even though he bribed everybody because he thought everybody had a price.
Yeah.
So how does Curtis Sliwa win the Asian vote? I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. A, you can't be a fair weather friend in that community. You had to have been there, and I've been there for years, especially when the Asians were being assaulted.
Yeah.
And number 2, you have to avoid CCCP, communist Chinese money. Eric Adams is probably going to go to the big house in chains and shackles because he chose, with his Asian liaison, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie Greco, to go for the money.
Yes.
I stayed away from the CCP because I was advised by my Asian consiglieres. They'll give you a lot of money. But other Chinese and Koreans will say, but they're communists. I won the vote. Then Lee Zeldin was able to win the vote. Now you have this group
And Lee
here,
came
right?
very, very close. Just
well, he
very,
won the
very
Asian
close.
vote, right.
But
And
in general, to governor, very
he
close.
almost rode that crime issue to victory until Eric Adams threw a lifeline to Kathy Hochul. And remember, she is Hochul because she's full of nonsense. And flooded the subways with the police officers that gave people the idea, well, maybe it's not as bad as it is.
But if there's no crime and it's just a New York Post fault for reporting or a perception, what do we need them and the National Guard for?
Well, of course.
It's
Average person understands
Yeah.
that. But they don't trust Republicans, they don't trust Democrats. So this nonsense that they trust people, they don't. They'll take what they consider the best of two evils. Now what you have to do is elevate that. So I've worked with all the Asian candidates. I made that the priority. We had Peck, who won the Korean. He could take out Rozak. Rozak, who is for no cash bail and defunding the police. Then Kim won a very heated Democratic primary. He believed in defunding the police and no cash bail. We got a candidate, Wang, chiropractor, former guardian angel, law and order guy. And then, of course, the best, Yatin,
Yeah,
who
she was just here with us about a week ago.
absolutely
Very
the
good lady.
best. I mean, focused. She's been an act. She was a Democrat.
Yep.
Became a Republican.
Yep.
And that's the other thing. All these Republicans, you're a freaking rhino. If you ain't MAGA, you ain't real. Guess what? In New York City, if you're just going to depend on MAGA votes or Republican rhino votes, you ain't going nowhere. You got to get Democrats. You got to get moderate Democrats. And
Independents.
if you're going to chase them away by calling them names, you are destined to lose again and again. The only way you win in New York, Rudy Giuliani, moderate Democrats. Ronald Reagan, moderate Democrats. Or you're Michael Bloomberg and you bribe
Trying to
people,
bribe people.
with millions and millions of dollars. That's the only way you do it. My route is to say moderate Democrats, like in Staten Island. There are more Democrats registered in Staten Island than Republicans. People think, what?
I didn't know that.
Yes. Look, election of 2000, Gore won Staten Island. Bush 43 lost it. There are more Democrats than Republicans. It's just that they have a lot of Democrats who will vote Republican. Same in South Brooklyn.
So common
Same
sense,
in the Rockaway.
common sense.
Same in Middle Village, Maspeth, Glendale. Look, Bob Holden.
Bob Holden.
Democrat.
Represents me. Yeah.
Right. So
Well, he's not a radical.
no,
Not at
but
all.
if you are going to make fun of people who are not MAGA, oh, you're a freaking rhino. Democrats, I hate. Mark Levin, he's my colleague. Democrats are evil. You ain't going to win. There are more Democrats than Republicans. And guess what? The people who vote are not guys like you and me who talk a lot of trash. Women. They vote.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they're married to a guy, he's got the MAGA stuff, Trump, and she sits quietly. Meantime, this guy forgot there was even an election. He wasn't even registered. The wife, did you vote? Yes. Who'd you vote for? Biden. If we don't get the female vote, we lose right across the board.
I agree.
Abortion is a killer for us, a killer for us. And a lot of the macho, maniacal guys, it's not that. Oh, yeah? Tell that to ladies, including Republicans. So we need to be a lot more sensitive to the female vote because they outnumber us. And guess what? They vote.
And we vote.
They vote.
So you want them to come out and vote for you, obviously, yeah. I
Right,
work
you
with
go
them.
into the black community, you know who votes in the black community? Women, 55 plus, who go to church. They're the voters. The guys talk, just like everywhere else. Guys talk a lot of crap. And when it comes to the time to actually vote, 2 times more women vote than men. The last election, 2020, the state of Texas's turnout, all their turnout, was the size of the differential between the national women versus men's vote.
Wow.
Think of that. That's why President Donald Trump became citizen Donald Trump, because of the female vote.
So you mentioned the black community. A lot of people that we speak to, if you read the news saying, the defunding the police, the illegal immigrants, the crime in general has hurt them and the Latino community a lot. And you do see a lot of them supporting Trump and for supporting a lot of Republicans in different races, different parts of the country. Have you been embraced by them? Are they getting your message? What do you feel like the next race coming? Will you do better than you did last time? Do you feel,
Well, I've grown up in that community. I'm one of the few Republicans who actually have been there consistently, whereas many Republicans got to understand in some of these neighborhoods, the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill. They don't know what the hell a Republican is. And by the way, every ethnic and racial community, you show up like a few days before election, they said, where have you been? I don't know you.
and now you want my vote?
Right. I know this guy. I know he's a crook, but at least I know who he is.
He's here all the
You,
time.
I have no idea who you are. You're a Republican. I don't even know what a Republican is. So I'm going to vote for the crook I know unopposed to the crook I don't know. Again, most people, not the cognoscente, trust no politicians. Most people didn't want Biden or Trump this cycle. Obviously, it's the party structure that has produced that. But this whole concept that, oh, I'm enamored with the Republicans or Democrats. People don't trust their politician. And guess what? Rightfully so.
No.
Rightfully so.
See the approval rating Congress has.
Well, how do you get elected and then all of a sudden, when you're finally kicked out or you die, because that's, I believe in term limits.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, you're a millionaire 4, 5, 6 times over. Look at Kathy Crime Wave Holcomb.
Oh.
She reported $1 million more on her IRS, her joint tax entries with her grifter husband, because now if you want to do business with Kathy, you make a contract with her husband.
And a lot of that's with the casinos, the Buffalo Bills.
That's all she does is grift.
Yeah.
That's all these politicians do is fundraise 24/7.
Yeah.
The worst pig, the worst Hazarai is the Chuck E. Cheese Schumer. He's constantly shaking down people for money. It's pay for play. And unfortunately, a lot of Republicans, you gotta have money. You gotta have money. Yeah, really?
We should have term limits for everybody. I agree.
Right, but the point is, you got to get out into the community first. People got to know who you are. You can't buy them. Look at Michael Bloomberg, one of the richest guys in the world.
They try to buy the presidential election.
What did he get for that? He got eviscerated by Elizabeth Warren, not just once, twice. It was like Kill Bill.
And he spent a fortune.
She took out her samurai sword, chopped off his 3-piece set, shoved it in his mouth, and he got America Samoa for $1 billion. Because you can't buy people. You can't buy people. No. The problem that Biden has this time around is, even with money that he's raised, you can't get over, you can't use technology with people. They can see. It's not Photoshop. The guy is impaired. He's deteriorating in front of us.
He can't talk. He can't get off the steps.
Right. But the female vote has to break for Trump for him to win. So that's why, if you notice, polls are a hell of a lot closer than they should be. Yeah. Remember, in 2016, there was Hillary Rodham Clinton at Jacob Javits Center in a fetal position. It took her days to recover, because in the last 11 days, the white suburban female vote broke for Trump. In 2020, it broke for Biden. Trump's got to figure out a way now.
Get them back.
Well, if nothing more,
get enough of them back.
Flip the coin and not be so negative towards Trump that they will vote for the cadaver in formaldehyde, because that's what he is. He's a cadaver in formaldehyde.
So it's unfortunate.
Well, Biden is dysfunctional. He can't function.
Yeah,
Yet why are the polls so close? I mean, Trump is like the ever-ready Energizer Bunny, 2-hour speeches. He's like here, there, everywhere. Bing, 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 ricochet rabbit. But some
and he's got his marbles still.
Women.
Yeah.
Men are so macho maniacal. I've heard them all banning all these guys. Abortion, not important. Guess what? You want Hakeem Jeffries to be your Speaker of the House?
I personally don't. That's just
Neither do I. I know Hakeem Jeffries. Remember, he was the nephew of the most virulent anti-Semite in the history of New York City, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who was head of Black Studies in the CUNY administration, he's the one who created the image, ice people and snow people.
Yeah.
Remember that Barack Obama in Chicago from Reverend White?
Reverend White.
Ice people,
what is it?
snow
Goddamn America?
people.
Goddamn America, goddamn you, goddamn everything.
And you may have remembered, maybe before your time, Herman Badillo,
I know Herman,
who ran with Rudy Giuliani, flipped his party affiliation, ran for control, lost, but became the head of CUNY. And he took that case against Dr. Leonard Jeffries all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, and they kicked Dr. Leonard Jeffries out. Now here you have Hakeem Jeffries, bright, right? He remembers every line of a Biggie Smalls rap, every line. Yet he can't remember when he wrote op-eds in favor of his uncle in Binghamton, SUNY, and in favor of Farrakhan. When you ask him, in the paper you wrote editor, you loved Farrakhan, you loved Dr. Leonard Jeffries.
I don't recall.
He had Joe Biden disease.
Yeah.
So I don't trust any of them. Just like Eric Adams used to love Farrakhan in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Can't trust any of them.
Agreed. So what do we do? CUNY, obviously, unfortunately, higher education in this country, they've indoctrinated our younger people, hate capitalism, hate America, we're the oppressor, we're evil, we're the bad guys in the world. Meanwhile, we've done more good in the world than probably any other country, all countries combined. And we spilled a lot of blood, a lot of treasure, a lot of money. No country's perfect, but I think honestly, in my heart of hearts, we've done more good
No doubt.
than the whole world put together. What do we do to stop CUNY and these crazy people from the little ones all the way up to our young adults? Just how do we stop it?
Look, you can't touch Harvard and Columbia and NYU. They got these endowments, outrageous, 10 billion, 20 billion, right? Private universities. But CUNY and SUNY are dependent on
On us, our taxpayers, yeah.
You can strangle the financing. You can sue chairmen of departments. You can go after their chancellors, sue them. They want to sue you all the time.
Yeah.
Use your corporation counsel. We got 1,000 lawyers who every day, all they do is they get paper cuts. Settle.
Correct.
You say, hey, you're a lawyer? Instead of going in there and settling with your buddies that you go out drinking with and you have dinner with,
Play golf with.
fight in court. We may lose, but people will think, hey, we're fighting this. Right now, CUNY is the training center for local terrorism, for jihad supporters, for from the river to the sea. They all go to CUNY for their training.
Yeah.
And we're tax subsidizing the training of our domestic terrorists right here.
Which is completely disgraceful.
Right? So go at the source. If you control a public school system,
Strangle them.
of course, it's like in our public schools. Do they do the national anthem? Ixnay. Do they do the Pledge of Allegiance? Ixnay. Do they fly the American flag? No, they fly every other flag of places I can't even find on a map.
Yeah.
Insist on it. Say, unless you do it, we cut your funding. Yeah. Fiscal pain is what they will respond to. Because look, it's a bloated budget. Department of Education, $36 billion. That's 1/3 of our $108 billion budget.
It's a lot of
It's
cash.
the house of anti-Semitism. Chancellor Banks, right? And we just want to give them more and more and more. No, you say, guess what? We're cutting your budget. You're going to get rid of all those people at the Department of Education, dumbest organization ever, that you're paying $350,000, $400,000 a
The
year.
last chancellor bloated them with all his.
And we're going to put the money in the pockets of the teachers so that they don't have to reach into their pockets and buy basic supplies. Is that not crazy?
And my mom taught in my community for 31 years at PS
Right.
206, and she did that all the time. And when she got reimbursed, great, but she spent that much, and she got a check maybe for that.
And
So,
the UFT has become Union of Failed Teachers.
Yeah.
Instead of defending the retirees
Yep.
and the active teachers.
and the kids.
That's right, but look at all the anti-Semitism. The majority of the retirees and the majority of the active teachers are Jews by birth. They may renounce it, but when you're
Sure.
born of a Jewish mother, you're a Jew. And yet, they're tolerant of all this anti-Semitism in the schools. I asked my youngest son, Hunter, who's Jewish. I said, Hunter, you talk about what's going on in Israel and with the Palestinians? No, Dad. I said, why not?
It's current events.
No, we don't want to offend anybody. Offend? I want my kids to hear both sides. I'm not afraid for them to hear both sides.
Sure.
But they need to be educated on what's going on. The older they get, the more they're able to absorb.
Make their own decision.
But the fact that my son tells me, product of a public school, that they won't discuss what's going on in the world because they're afraid of offending people. They don't teach them history, they don't teach them civics, nobody understands the role of government. So naturally, when you end up with this massive apathy and indifference, our fault. We don't make the demands. We spend all this money and we don't demand that this be part of the curriculum.
And how a flag isn't in every classroom? How
Well,
that
I'll
should
tell you
be.
what was the saddest thing. 9/11 happens. Bush 43 comes to New York, thinks he's going to be booed because everybody hates him in New York. And he's in the car with Rudy, and they're heading down to 9/11. And Rudy gets the call, they can't find an American flag. They can't find an American flag. So they go to schools in Chinatown. Can't find an American flag in a public school. They had to go over the Brooklyn Bridge. And they had to go to a Brooklyn neighborhood to find an American flag. What does that tell you right there? Now, I don't want to see American flags festooned everywhere. But the fact that you had to go over the Brooklyn Bridge to find an American flag in the aftermath of the attack of 9/11, what does that say about us as a nation? What is that? We'd rather burn the flag than fly the flag. And by the way, notice how people who hate MAGA have all of a sudden convinced their own Democrats, you fly an American flag, that means you support Trump. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
You wear a mask, that means you're a progressive, a liberal, a socialist. You freak, it's 95 degrees out. There's no more COVID. What are you wearing a mask? That's my sign. That's my tribal identity.
Yes.
So now we've created it so that if you fly an American flag, you're a MAGA Trumper, species. But if you wear a mask, that means that's right. Even though there's no COVID, shows you I'm a liberal progressive. You anti-vaxxers, you MAGA people.
Well, speaking of masks, now it looks like our lackluster AG, Letitia James, and the governor are talking, and maybe Adams is involved, but they might want to stop the masks, for the protests, because so many of these bad guys are hiding their faces like it's Halloween and going out and committing crime.
Well, now they can talk about that.
But will they do it?
Well, first off, Tish James would have to have somebody named Trump in a mask for her to scrape the barnacles off.
Seems
of
that's the only one she's prosecuting.
If it ain't Trump or a Trump family member or Trump business, she ain't interested.
No shoplifters, no criminals.
And Kathy Holcomb, who's full of nonsense, is a flip-flopper. And Eric Adams always says it but doesn't implement. Who's going to enforce that if they do pass it? The police, right?
Well, supposedly they should, in theory.
Now, the police, let's say they roll up of a group of young men with high levels of testosterone crashing through their cranium, all of them masked up. Police officers say, new ordinance, unless you have a medical exemption or a religious exemption, you'll have to remove those masks. F you, what are you going to do about it? No nightstick, no defensive weapons. Now they got to get into wrestling matches with these guys. It don't look good. Watch, the politicians will pull off. Just like de Blasio, remember, ordered the police. You go into the inner city, you make sure they're wearing masks. Cops did it. Got into some real brawls.
Yeah.
And then de Blasio said, mean cops, mean, over the top. The politicians love to use the cops. And then when the cops have to do what they got to do, the politicians back off. Politicians back off. Rudy, no. The rest of them, absolutely, including Bloomberg.
So we obviously have a problem here with police being neutered, defunded, and leaving. What do we do to, you're the mayor tomorrow, what does Curtis do to retain, recruit, and get the cops? Because, look, like I told you on the phone, I'm not Antifa, I'm not Black Lives Matter, I'm not defunding the police. But a lot of them I just feel like a lot of them just are punching in, punching out, not doing much. How do we get those guys or those girls to do their job? And if they're not, get rid of the bad apples and put people in there. Because if the fire department kind of stopped fighting fires, we'd be in trouble.
True. The mayor, right, the so-called cop for 22 years, the House Mouse, he recently signed a consent to order decree that turned the police department into powder puff police officers. They can't put their hands on anybody anymore. Afterwards, he said it was a mistake. Okay. Why did you make that mistake? The lawyers told me to do it. I thought you were the mayor. Again, the guy is, we have a word in Italian, mezzo, poco, poco, half and half. You have to fight that consent decree, that court, and that's going to be tough. But you got to take them on and say, that is absolutely nonsense. Then you got Donovan Richards here, Queensboro president.
Useless.
Thinks he's a future mayor.
God help us.
Let me tell you what a racist this guy is, right? Barely beat Elizabeth Crowley in the Democratic primary. She's a good retail politician, but she lost fair and square.
Long-term politician.
He was a gold brick, slacker, deadbeat, didn't do any politic. He thought he could just... And then he called her a racist. Then he calls Bob Holen a racist. When he was chairman of the Public Safety Committee, he's the one who proposed the legislation that was passed by the cop-hating city council. You can't put your knee on a diaphragm. You can't use a chokehold. Yeah. The cops, how do they wrestle people down? They don't even have a nightstick. What do? You see them rolling around there like pigs in the trough.
I've heard you on other interviews talk about that, where they used to twirl them around and people were afraid that you did something wrong, you didn't get whacked. Now they don't even see they have flashlights anymore.
Well, the nightstick, more so than making your kneecap sing and ring.
Yeah.
You take the nightclub out, you go like this. Everybody knows that means, okay, you're not going to get through. What do they have? Now notice they have nothing. They're tackling them. Yeah. You know where else we tackle people? At the border. The border agents are the Migrant, Immigration and Naturalization Service, right?
Yeah.
I've been at the border many times. They stand there, they're in those lime green SUVs, they see them coming across. and they don't have anything to stop them. They tackle them as if they're trying out for an NFL team. You say, what madness, what insanity is this? And it looks bad. The visuals of it look bad. And so then you get sued. Then we give out payouts to Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which has become big, large mansions.
Oh, yeah.
And so you realize it's a racket. It's a racket, and we lose police because men and women say, okay, I'll do my 2-3 years.
Go to Florida.
I'll get marinated. And they come and recruit you.
Texas, Florida,
Carolinas. As if you were a high school basketball All-American, and all the colleges are coming to recruit you because they know now you know what it is to be a cop. But you probably are resentful. You probably feel no love from the public or the politicians. So you're out.
And that's how they poach them.
And by the way, that's fair. I mean, look, it's a free society. You're free to go wherever you can to earn your living and raise your family. The point is you would think we'd want to make it so that a cop would think twice. Now they're not thinking twice. They're out of here. We're down to 32,500. We need to be up to 38,000.
Yeah.
First thing I do, I tell Columbia University, oh, you got $10 billion endowment, right? And we protect you. We're at your beck and call. No, you're going to start contributing to public safety. Absolutely not. Well, go ahead. Pick up and leave. Where are you going to go? Secaucus? Well, where are you going to go? The Nets tried Secaucus, right? Where did they go? They came back to Barclays Center.
Didn't work out.
So let them, NYU, they buy up all the property downtown. They take it off the tax rolls because they're a nonprofit, sitting on an $8 billion endowment. No, you can say, we're going to sit down. You're going to give us part of that endowment because we provide public safety to protect your students, your professors, your adjunct professors, and your future radicals of America that want to take over America and burn our flags. So guess what? To protect them, you're going to pay a little bit of that money. And if they don't like it, get the hell out of here. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go?
They're not.
We're in the bargaining position. It's like George Steinbrenner, right? Hey, we're going to leave the Bronx. The Bronx is mine.
Jersey, yeah,
and he said, I'm going to Secaucus, yeah? How did that work out? Of course he never left.
No.
Dolan. Oh, he doesn't pay any property taxes because he said, oh, I'll leave.
I'll leave.
Where you going?
Jersey.
I'll pack your bags for you, you jerk off, Dolan. I'll pack your bags for you. You can get the hell out of here. You gotta play tough with these guys because they act like they can hide behind nonprofit status. And let's face it, Dolan and the rest of them wine, dine, and pocket line politicians, Republicans and Democrats. And remember the lobbyists, they're always out there like snakes. They're ready. It's like when Eric Adams got sworn in as a state senate, the first statement he made publicly in front of all of his crooked colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, the lobbyists, he goes, show me the money. That's what it's all about. Show me the money. Maybe the only time in his life he was saying the truth. Yeah. Because that's what Albany is about.
Well, speaking of the money, Curtis, obviously we know the last administration, de Blasio, his big donors were the hotel industry, killed Airbnb in a heartbeat. Probably the only thing we did quick in this city that I can remember. And now, fast forward to the Adams, Dictator Adams, as I refer to him. His biggest donors are obviously developers. It's no secret. The city of yes. It's a hot, contentious topic here in Queens because a lot of Queens is still a quiet, residential, single, two-story family, little buildings. And it just seems like we've seen them in Regal Park in Forest Hills and Astoria, just name a few areas. And it just seems like they're going to be able to say, yes, you've donated to me, I will let's say yes, and put up a 14, 20-story building, no parking infrastructure, no school infrastructure added, sewer, electric, so on and so on. Queens just seems to be the borough that there's a crosshair on it for that. And my second statement to you is, what do we do about all the shelters for not only our own people, but all of the illegal aliens coming here? It seems like Queens has been, with the last two administrations, a dumping ground. Why are they picking on Queens so bad? What do we do to stop it, to preserve our borough?
Queens is an outer borough. Schmucks, pay your taxes, shut up, we'll take care of your kids. You don't like it, get the hell out of here. Yeah. That's their attitude. So, perfect example, City of Yes. The best proponent of fighting it is Paul Graziano.
Absolutely.
Democrat. I've seen Republicans, I ain't listening to him. Excuse me. You're not listening to the guy who knows this subject better than anyone else.
The most knowledgeable guy out there.
And I know, because when I was chairman of the Reform Party of New York, before Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo destroyed all the third parties, before I joined the Republican Party, Paul Graziano ran as a reformer. He's good. He's a Democrat. So I've seen Republicans arguing, hey, you have a mutual interest here to save the single family, double family homes.
He's a smart guy. Work with him.
Because Eric Adams is coming in with his bulldozers and his developers who not only want to put up high rises like in Manhattan, they want to put in like a third world country where you go to a high rise and on the second floor there's a barber shop, a bodega, a massage parlor, third floor. That's crazy. And they started with upzoning. Remember, it started first with upzoning. Now it's the city of
rezoning. Yeah.
Right, so that's why you have to bring Democrats and Republicans together. Now, they have Cambria Heights, black community, middle class, Southeast Queens. 500 people showed up for a civic meeting, where normally you'd be lucky if you had 50 people. Yeah. And we've seen it in Forest Hills, and we've seen it in Regal Park.
We did one covered one with Paul recently in Floral Park, where about 6-7 communities came together at elementary school, about 250 people.
That's right, out near Creedmoor, where they put up the tents, and it's a middle-class area. And most recently, I went to the emergency meeting in Whitestone, where they brought together Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. It's an issue we can win, but we're so far behind. They've already passed one law, so now we got to try to give it a trim. But again, he's a Democrat. But this is specious nonsense. It's tribal. And with Republicans, if we don't team up with independents and Democrats, we are doomed to lose. We will run to lose. And that's what I say about the state GOP and the city GOP is they run to lose.
So you're obviously open-minded to work with anybody that has the right idea for the benefit of the public. You're
not looking at look, when my first vote was for McGovern against Nixon. The peace guy, McGovern. Rudy, Democrat. Reagan, Democrat.
Originally was, yeah.
Yatin, Democrat. Okay. Paul Graziano, Democrat. So if you are going to cast aspersions against Democrats, then you're cursing my mother and father, lifelong Democrats, like most of our parents were, blue collar, when they represented the blue collar.
Sure.
You're cursing me, you're cursing Rudy, you're cursing Reagan, you're cursing Yati, you're cursing all these people who were Democrats at first, and suddenly they realize, hey, the Republicans represent more of our values. Maybe these people are not totally supportive of all the Republican values, but they feel closer to the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. Yeah. Again, in New York City, there's 9 Democrats for every 1 Republican. And what did they do in the last election cycle when I was running? Some Republicans decided, you know what, we can't win, so we'll become rent-a-wreck Democrats. They spend millions to grab the few remaining Republicans they could to become Democrats, to prevent a socialist from becoming mayor. How crazy was they? They destroyed the Republican Party. And Republicans are like lemmings, more than happy. Oh, yeah, I'll become a rent-a-wreck Democrat. Oh, you mean I can convert and go back to becoming a Republican? Once I fight off the socialists for you because you Democrat moderates are not capable of fighting your own battles? How many of them have converted back?
None.
None. Look at the voting rolls. Republicans were suckers. They went for that hook, line, and sinker. I stood with Governor Pataki against that. Tried to warn them like Paul Revere, but what happened? They kept changing their, Curtis, I'll be back. Makwana Ma, you're not only not back, you either died and went 6 feet under, or you're in Florida now, in Boca Raton, the 6th borough of the city of New York.
Yeah, that's true. So, regarding funding that you spoke of, fundraising, I know you said you don't want to take CCP money, and obviously you have to be careful when you take, you don't want to be like Mayor Adams taking dirty money from dirty people. How hard will that be to depend on clean money, for a lack of terminology, from average folks, small donations where you're not looking for George Soros or the CCP or any of these nefarious people and groups? How hard is that going to be on you to raise funds to compete with Adams, who obviously is going to have a large war chest, unfortunately?
He already does. Yeah. Plus, he has a large legal defense fund to ward off the 4 separate federal investigations of his corruption and his team's corruption. But I had the least I had the most donations, but the least numerical amount. Average donation was about $19.
So that's the average folks.
That's it. People writing checks. They don't trust, putting anything online. That's younger people.
Yeah.
The older people, I gotta write their check. I gotta feel it, smell it, touch it. I don't trust that. Venmo, what the hell is that? It's like, you ain't gonna get it. Young people, they can donate, but it's the older people who have some spendable income. And you get 8-to-1 match.
Yeah.
Now, you got to understand, I'm opposed to the 8-to-1 match, but now that it is the law, It is sacred. We are giving me $8 of taxpayers' money if I can raise $1 from you. And there are so many of my colleagues who abuse that privilege. So you have to go out, and that is sacred. Because without it, that kind of campaign financing, a lot of new politicians will never be able to run. You know, because they have to work a job. Look at Eric Adams, right? He's a mayor who can run for re-election like other elected officials. You think they're really doing their job when they're running for re-election? I'm a talk show host. I got to pay child care. I got to pay child support, right? They come through the nose. Fine, no problem. But I have to leave radio when I run for office. What income do I have? I have ugats. Is that fair? Men and women who are in the private sector, when they decide they're going to run for office, they pretty much have to leave their job or they're going to lose the election because you got to campaign morning, noon, and night.
And I'm assuming that the Turkish government and George Soros aren't going to be funding you, so...
No, the Red Chinese, right? I'm the only one who still calls them the Red Chinese. What likelihood is it they're going to fund me? And Erdogan, imagine, here it is. Eric Adams is raising the Turkish flag after October 7th, right? Erdogan, first leader out of the box. Oh, Hamas, they're martyrs, they're freedom fighters. I hate the Jews. But you see, Eric says, I got to make nice to the Jews because their checks don't bounce. But in the meantime, Erdogan, I cover my eyes and I take his money. They're all grifters. I don't trust any of them. With me, I run the Ronald Reagan Republican clubs in the city. Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. I flipped that. I said, I verify first and I'll trust you, including the Democratic Socialists of America. I don't mind. As long as I can verify what you're saying, then I'll trust you. But if I can't verify what you say just because you're in my tribe, you're a Republican, I'm supposed to trust you, or a Democrat, or an independent? No. Verify, then trust.
So other than labels and party affiliation and colors, you're going to trust the person by the character?
Oh, I'm for nonpartisan elections. The biggest thing we have going against us in citywide elections is that R in front of our names. I love you, Curtis. I love all the work you and the Guardian Angels have done, but you got an R in front of your name. I can't vote for you. What do you mean you can't vote for me? I have an independent line. No, my mother, my booby, my Zeta would never forgive me if I voted for a Republican. That's our biggest problem. Why are we afraid of nonpartisan elections? Reardon became mayor of Los Angeles in a nonpartisan election. He was a Republican, but he didn't have the R in front of him. Republicans oftentimes, yeah, but we have to give up our little fiefdoms. No, you don't. You can still have your Republican Party, but let's have nonpartisan elections. Let's elect the best man or the best woman, and let's not be afraid to debate and have multiple candidates. And, you know, instead of hiding like some of our candidates do, debate. Yeah, you're taking public money and you're not willing to debate.
I'm glad you brought that up because we've interviewed a lot of folks on both sides of the aisle. And one thing I can tell you and our viewers with a straight face that's 100% accurate, not one incumbent accepted a debate. We offered to host it, produce it, same rules. We reached out to many incumbents, shared the rules with everybody. We didn't get one back, not even one response. So do you expect that Mayor Adams is going to willingly debate you, or he'll just do the one or two that he'll be forced into and just to show face?
He's going to take matching funds. But let's say he were a Bloomberg, independently wealthy. He wouldn't have to debate.
He would stay away from it.
And in fact, incumbents stay away from it. Look at Tish James, right?
Oh my God.
She wouldn't debate Michael Henry, who's a Queens resident. Already has announced again, I'm one of his biggest supporters, Michael Henry. We got to get him elected because he will take politics out of the office. Tish James would not debate him. Now, Kathy Hochul debated Zeldin once. Rodriguez debated DiNapoli once. The only one to refuse to debate was Tish James because she was afraid of Michael Henry. She figured, now, I want a coronation. All these officials want a coronation. Now, when they're hungry and they're independent and autonomous, debates. The moment they become an incumbent, they join the club and they all say, no, you shouldn't debate. To his credit, years ago when Vito Fossella was a congressman, he debated his Democratic challenger, I forget his name, 10 times.
That's great.
All over Staten Island. Never did it again. But that would be a great model, and each debate is just on one issue. One issue, I'll never forget, I'm in the middle of a debate. Channel 7, Eyewitness News, right, Ritter. And he goes to me, Mr. Sliwa, we're facing a pending $6 billion deficit in the city budget. 30 seconds, what will you do about that? I said, I couldn't tell you how to balance my checkbook in 30 seconds. I'm supposed to explain it. It's all sound bites. It's all, let me come up with something cute.
That you can't answer in that time frame.
No, everybody should sit down and it should be a conversation. You want a moderator there in case he gets over the top and nobody can understand what anybody's saying.
Yeah.
Right. 1 hour crime. Next hour quality of life. Next hour migrants. Next hour economy. There should be 10 debates.
Oh yeah, I
10.
agree.
And let the civic organizations sponsor them. The media can come in and obviously film it and report on it, and all the independent media now, the social networking, but let the civic groups, because the civic groups, they love what they do because there's not a party affiliation to a civic group. You really got to love your city. Sure. And I don't think civic groups get enough attention or enough recognition, and it's really dying. The new generation, they're not joining civic groups like in my generation, the baby boomers.
So you heard it from Curtis. He's willing to do multiple debates. He feels each topic, each important issue should be debated for an hour. Obviously,
discussion. I wouldn't even call it a debate.
Let the voters know what you're about, what he's about. And,
right. And hey, it won't kill you to agree with a person sometimes. Don't feel like, I got it, I can't never, oh no. Hey, that's a pretty damn good idea. How would you flesh that out? People would love that. It's like, wow, they're having a conversation. They agree to disagree. Other times they agree. Yeah. And then let the people decide. Now, maybe Eric Adams is best on the economy. Oh, Curtis, he really bombed out. But, Curtis was so good with quality of life. Now, at the end of it, I got a scorecard, Sort of like in golf. Hey, I did very good on hole 2. I got a birdie. Boy, man, I had 5 bogeys on hole. And then maybe people said, overall, I'm actually going with the guy with the $5,000 customized suit and the ring in his ear and the bald head. Fine, but at least you've heard everything he has to say, everything. And I want the independent candidates up there.
Oh, so you want to include the independents?
I want the independent. They need to be heard too.
So this is our first. We've had plenty of folks who wanted to challenge incumbents. All incumbents declined, at least the ones that we've challenged on behalf of people challenging them. But we haven't had anyone who's a candidate until Curtis now who's saying that he would include those independents as well.
Yeah, look, I had a guy running against me.
Even though they probably have no chance, you just say, hey, put them on the stage with us.
Everybody has a chance.
Okay.
Right, an act of God could happen, and then all of a sudden I have an attack, or something happen, right? Everyone has a chance. Okay. And if you hear independent candidates, you may say, wow, I never thought of that. So last time around, the Conservative Party endorsed a guy named Pepitone, former police officer. I thought it was Joe Pepitone, one of my favorite Yankees. Happens he was related to him. I couldn't be nicer to the guy. He was a nice guy. Hey. And they said, don't be nice to him because he'll take your vote. I said, look, wow. If he's better than me, I should get a job hanging wallpaper. I'm not afraid. Then the guy goes out and he's attacking me every moment he has. I say, hey, Pep, you think you could attack like Eric once? He goes, yeah, but I'm going to get my votes from you.
Wow.
I said, come on, man. I'm more than happy to accept you as an equal, and you are my equal. It takes balls to run for office. You know how hard you have to work? And the volunteers and even the paid staff, man, it's 24/7.
So speaking of that, is there any website if people do want to volunteer or if you're taking donations at this point, help the cause, is there any website or any events coming up you'd like to share with the public?
Yeah, so you're trying to get me in trouble. You're trying to get me to officially announce so they take me off the radio, right?
No.
What are you, working for my enemies here? Let's just say, you see what this says? What does it say? What does it say?
The People's Mayor, NYC.
That's right. Right now, I'm like Napoleon in exile on the island of Elba. I live on Manhattan. That's my island. I will be running, but I haven't officially announced. I can't raise a nickel, diamond, penny, no official papers. Just know me as the People's Mayor.
When the time comes, will you let us know?
Not only will I let you know, but one thing you know about Curtis, 70 years, he lets everybody know to the point where you say, I got it already, you run it. But I think if you were a degenerate gambler like a lot of people that I grew up with, Curtis is running. Curtis is running because this city is slipping into the abyss. I feel that Eric Adams has done us all a disservice because he's become de Blasio 2.0. He said he wouldn't be de Blasio.
Much worse.
And I think I have to convince people, look, if you're going to keep electing Democrats and keep making the same mistakes, what do you got to lose to elect me? I'm a son of the soil. You know who I am. Many of you say, I would vote for you tomorrow if you were a Democrat, but you're a Republican. I can't vote for you. No, it's not that you can't. It's you have a prejudice and you won't. Time to cross over to the other side, in which I'm open-minded to everybody. I'll sit with DSA in the past. I'll sit with anybody. I'll debate any subject, anytime, anywhere. And if I lose, I'll be more than enough of a man to say, you got me on that one.
Well, I'll be honest. I voted for you last time. I'll be happy to vote for you again.
You're damn right. You better vote for me again.
Listen, well,
I know where you live.
Well, listen, I'm definitely not going to be voting for Adams or any crazy people like this. But just to change the topic, if we may, what is going on with the Guardians? I know you guys have grown to a global organization, not just throughout cities in the U.S., but any news or anything that's going on, or anything, if any of the young people out there might want to join the movement?
Sure.
Any way they can
Well,
reach
see,
you guys?
that you can go to the website.
That we're not, okay.
GuardianAngels.org. That we've been in existence 46 years. We're in 13 countries, 130 cities.
Wow.
And it started here in the Bronx and then spread to the other boroughs. So people can be proud that we've become international and we've never changed. It's always selfless service.
You guys aren't carrying billy clubs or guns or brass knuckles or
But
mace.
if we got to risk our life to defend you, we will do that. It's the old concept of the Good Samaritan. And if you notice, it's an interracial organization. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. It's been
and
that
also
way
women,
since
right?
day
Also
one.
women?
Right, women too. Not by design, but because we realize we trust people. We don't trust politicians. I trust people all over the world to make life and death decisions, which sometimes you have to make when you're out on a patrol. But I'll be honest with you, I would trust a citizen before I would ever trust a politician.
And what do you think of, I see a lot of things online, especially with all of the shelters that have been coming to Queens, whether it's, Americans or men from prison transitioning or illegal aliens, whatever it might be. But we see a lot of posts online where people say, I'm going to start a community patrol, or street justice, vigilante, different things. How much of them are serious? How much is just talking crap? I don't know. You don't know. But in general, what do you think about people saying that, or even discussing, hey, I'm going to start a neighborhood watch, or even dole out some street justice and forget the cops, we'll deal with them like we used to do it back in the day?
Well, obviously, street justice, there are ramifications. If you violate somebody's right, if you use excessive physical force, you're going to be arrested. And all those liars for hire that I talked about, 1-800-lawyers,
Yeah.
they practice their martial art, I sue, and they're going to sue you. And that's fair. That's fair. That's the checks and balances. Now, I would never say to anyone, you shouldn't try to patrol. I mean, they said that to me in the beginning. They called me a vigilante.
They did.
Called me Hell's Angels.
They did.
Said that,
You're an outlaw.
We
You're
couldn't be
reckless.
trusted.
You're
Right.
dangerous. Yeah.
So
You're looking for trouble.
I will never do that to anybody. I would let them, again, verify who they are, and then I'll trust them. But if they're willing to roll up their sleeves and do the hard work necessary to set up a good citizen watch or citizen patrol, they got me as an ally. They don't have to be guardian angels. I'm there to give them tactical air support. But I think the new generation is so bonded to the iPhone and smartphone that they think that everything can be resolved with a computer.
Take a picture and send it to the police. Yeah.
Some things can.
Sure.
You can create a world movement just over the modern technology. But there's some things that still require boots on the ground. And that's what I've become very proficient at. They call Barack Obama a community organizer. There's nobody who's organized more communities in more diverse areas where I've been run out of many of them at times, with my life being threatened, than Curtis Sliwa for 70 years. So I know all about the ups and downs of community organizing. We don't give enough credit. We don't understand what a sacrifice it is, selfless service. But that's the way I was raised by my parents, who are my role models, and my extended family, is that selfless service is what you should yearn to do in your life. Because it's ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You die, Michael Bloomberg, with your buildings, you got your dust, that's it. Somebody else gets your
Not
wealth.
taking your money with you, right?
We come in with nothing, we go out with nothing. But one thing I want people to know, that I honored my mother and father at their grave sites here in Queens by what I did for other people, not what I did for myself.
And you have not just talk the talk, you walk the walk. I remember during the looting, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, whoever was involved, and I know we saw the video, you and several of your guardian angels literally getting into a confrontation trying to protect some businesses, I believe, Broadway area, NYU.
Yeah, look,
Somewhere
we
around
were
there.
in battles every night. It was June 1st, June 2nd of 2020.
The cops lost South Manhattan. We heard the radio broadcast.
De
We lost it. We
Blasio
lost it.
ordered them to remove themselves, to step back. We filled the void. I ended up with 2 broken jaws. And I would do that again and again and again. It was one of the saddest days that I ever saw where cops were being told, you're impotent. Sit on the sidelines. We're putting you on the shelf. And we're letting Antifa and Black Lives Matter rampage.
The whole city, yeah.
And then years later, in that consent order decree that Eric Adams claims he had to sign, the lawyers made him do, we paid them money. We paid them money to
a lot of money.
for the
Not just
crime
money,
that they
a lot
committed.
of taxpayers'
Yes.
money.
And remember, that wasn't Eric Adams' money. Just like with
Our
the
money.
migrants, it's our money.
And we had no say. And like you said earlier, the city law firm they have, whoever represents us legally, settle. We settle almost everything out.
And then look at a place called Queens that really is zoned in the Bronx and try to figure that out, Rikers Island. It's connected to Queens, Steinway Street.
Speaking of that, that would be if our friend Yatin Chu wins. That's part of her district, Rikers Island.
Yep. No, Rikers got to stay open. I'm the only candidate who's ever
I'm glad
been.
you brought that up. Please tell us about that.
Hey, look, I've been locked up in Rikers Island. I've been in the dorm. I've been in my own cell, 8 by 4 foot cell. I've been in Punk City, protective custody. I've been in the Bing. I know what Rikers Island is. It definitely needs an upgrade. There's no doubt about it. But that's also, there are empty buildings there. We could put the tents there. We can put everybody there. There's only one way in, one way out. You were there 6 months, and if you're a good boy or good girl and you abide by the rules, then maybe we let you go out there, try to get a job, because like I said, I know Trump says he's going to deport all 8 million, Makwanamai, as we say it. It ain't happening. Some will go back, most will be here in perpetuity, and we're going to have to learn to get them up to speed. And keeping them on Rikers Island, where you feed them, you clothe them, you get them educated, you do all those things, you keep them from going off the island and going up and down with mopeds and all kinds of craziness. And if they've been good for 6 months, then they can start to acclimate into our society.
Better that than putting 4 new jails, minus I think Staten Island. We're going to put college dorm types, we're going to have Apple computers and beautiful furniture, and just seems like that'll be something for college kids, not criminals.
Pays to commit crime. I mean, that's what the Democrat socialists want, to reward you for committing crime. It used to be you had a scarlet letter with shame.
Yeah.
You shamed your family. You committed a crime. Now it's like you brag about it. Not only that, you get your just rewards. When you're in jail, they give you a slate. When you're in solitary confinement, they give you a slate. You're making calls. I don't think people realize this. You're making calls off your slate, off the computer, the laptop computer we give you that we pay for. You're living better sometimes in jail than you are at home.
And the veterans.
Except if you happen to be in a tier that are controlled by the Trinitarios, the Dominicans, MS-13, Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, Nietas, all of my enemies there. I mean, they run the jail system, unfortunately. The correctional officers, toughest job in New York City, without a doubt, is to be a CO correctional officer. I know Rikers Island. I would get control of that without a doubt, because I know what those men and women go through trying to deal with the really bad hombres, as Donald Trump
about
calls.
to get taken over by the feds, right?
Yeah, the feds are always, they do the dance. You know, they do the horror and the terror. We're going to take it over.
But even if they did, what would change?
Trust me.
It'd be probably worse.
Well, look, it can't get any worse than it is now. The gangs run Rikers Island, but I would say I would know what to do. You'd get control tier by tier. You don't take the whole jail over.
And would you change our commissioner? Is it Molina still, I believe?
Oh, Molina. Remember, he was on vacation. Now he's the deputy mayor of public safety, and now he's in charge of a $4 billion division of government. The Peter principle in the Adams administration: mess up in one job, they kick you upstairs to do another job, because it's all about
falling upwards.
Of course, and also loyalty to Eric Adams.
And
that's it.
Well, remember, he put his brother as the big security because all the white supremacists were looking to kill him, which...
His biggest problem, he has no one in his administration to say no, Eric. Because if you say no, you're out. He's got a humongous ego that needs to be taken in and out of City Hall with a crane.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Me, my whole life.
But didn't Saddam Hussein surround himself with people like that?
Excuse me?
Didn't Saddam Hussein surround himself with yes men too?
Hey, look, every egomaniac, right? They don't want to hear bad news. Since I was birthed, I've been kicked out of school. I've been told no, no, no. At first, you always resist because, again, you think you know everything. You're omnipotent, you're pretentious, and then you realize in life there are a hell of a lot of other people who know more about life than you. Time to listen to them. Take the criticism and just build off of it. You see, Eric Adams cannot take criticism. He's not alone. Donald Trump can't take criticism. Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo can't take criticism. They're never wrong. Everything's perfect. Nothing. Hey, I make mistakes every day. And when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It doesn't kill you to apologize. It doesn't kill you to apologize. You're not less of a man if all of a sudden you acknowledge, yeah, boy, that was a pretty stupid mistake. I hope I don't make that again. People would say, wow, he's a regular guy. But politicians are never perfect, wonderful, I never make mistakes. You know, it's a cult. Cult of Cuomo. The Cuomo-sexuals, remember, for a while.
Oh, my God.
It was on the way. You talk to Trumpers, Maccabee, oh, perfect, perfect. Eric Adams, perfect. Nobody's perfect. I don't believe that the Pope is infallible, and I'm a Roman Catholic, and ain't nobody else perfect in this world, and I'm a perfect example of that.
That's very honest. On another topic, what do we do to bring back jobs here? Crazy Eyes AOC unfortunately killed Amazon, which would have been a lot of jobs in the Long Island City, Astoria area. A lot of businesses are depending on that, a lot of people. Would you have any plans to call Amazon and try to get them to come back, or another big company to come and build something that we could get 25,000 jobs in Queens or somewhere in the borough?
Look, it's all a hustle. The companies are in charge. They want to wind down their pocket line with tax breaks. The reason that Jeff Bezos was bringing Amazon, he had a secret backdoor deal with Cuomo and with de Blasio that we were never privy to. Now, clearly the socialists were opposed to it because they don't like capitalism. But you really got to say to yourself,
Well, she must, because she's worth like $16 to $20 million.
they all are. Look at Bernie the Altacaca Sanders. She's got the summer dacha there in Vermont. He invited de Blasio over.
Yeah.
But the initial issue with Jeff Bezos was
the backdoor.
He made a backdoor deal with Cuomo and de Blasio that we were not privy to. I objected to that.
Is there a way you think going forward, if you're mayor, that you could say, hey, I'm not going to do a backdoor with you, you're not going to buy me off, you're not going to buy the city, but I'd be willing to give you a tax credit or make it something feasible for you to come here and invest? Is there a way forward, you think?
You got to be reasonable. And again, you got to know that the rest of the world is competing with you. It's a global economy.
Yeah.
So you can say America first all you want. It's a global economy. You can't turn back the clock. I remember in 2016, my wife Nancy loved Bernie the Altacaca Sanders. Went all the way to Philadelphia when the superdelegates gave the nomination to Hillary, because he really won it in the, I call them the Caucasoid caucuses and in the primaries. And then who did she vote for, the general? Donald Trump. Because they had somewhat of the same message. America first, we're exporting jobs. There is a middle ground there. Of course we want to take care of America first.
Sure.
But it's a global economy. It's a world. You can't just close your eyes. Americans, they don't want to know anything about anything beyond their community, their city, or maybe America. There's a whole world out there that if we don't know what's going on out there, we're going to end up getting screwed. And that's where a lot of our enemies come from. So I say, if you want to protect yourself from your enemies, you better know a lot about your enemies and why they're your enemies.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies close, right?
Look, that's the whole purpose. We're now working with ICE, and the enemies who we've had over the years, they want to, 3 times is the charm for them. They want to take us out a 3rd time, and Joe Biden, their papachulo, is making it very easy for them to do it. They're probably right there in the Roosevelt Hotel. They got their schematics, they got the plans, they got their life insurance, iPhones, they've got the smartphones, they got the culturally appropriate food, they got the mofongo, the mango, the con arroz habichuelo with the chuleta, the pork chop on top. Are we a bunch of schmucks or what? And yet,
it's scary. We don't know. Just the ones we stopped.
They're gonna
How
do
many
it.
have got away that we don't know?
Look,
Something's going to happen,
they're
unfortunately.
going to do it. We never learn from our mistakes. Unfortunately, we just keep charging on without realizing what happened before 9/11, Sheikh Omar Abdullah.
Two
come on.
9/11s, two World Trade Centers anyway. Yeah.
Right. They're going to
And
do
then
it again.
countless other ones we stopped.
They tell us.
Yeah.
They don't mind getting on the Paradise Express and zooming themselves to Allah's side.
Yeah.
They are a culture of death, these zealots.
And unfortunately, us here in New York, we're
a culture of life.
We're the first target.
Right. We're a culture of life. And they look at that as a weakness. We have to let them know that if you mess with us, you are going to be met with strength, the likes of which you never, ever before assumed existed. And then we'll go back to living our way of life.
But it is scary to see how many we've seen on the list that we hear from Border Patrol and the Union, and then how many gotaways that, all right, most of them are probably looking for an economic opportunity.
Well, I'll give you the one group, the Tajiks. They're in Borough Park. They're on Coney Island Avenue. Out of all the stands, Kurdistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, talk about Uzbekistan, everyone in Tashkent is now a hairstylist at 71st and Continental on Austin Street. The Buharians, big houses, big businesses, all the stands. But the most dangerous stand is Tajikistan. Poor country with a totalitarian dictator. A lot of the young men have become fundamentalist Islamists, jihadists. They attacked Russia. Remember, we warned Putin. Who were they? The Tajiks. They attacked Iran. Remember, they had the 4th commemoration of when Trump incinerated Suleiman. They killed over 100 Iranians. And they're here. And guess what? Many of them have blonde hair, blue eyes, red hair, and emerald eyes. And they don't stand out in the general population.
So not the typical profile of...
Guess what? They're here, and they're going to hit us. Let's just hope it's not as bad as previous endeavors.
And obviously, if we read a newspaper and we see that the police are leaving, unfortunately, those in the anti-terrorist unit are retiring, quitting, taking other jobs. So
exactly.
When you do become mayor, you're going to have a lot of holes to fill, find a lot of people who have experience. And
you'll be able to round people up, especially retirees.
Retired law enforcement,
who
retired
understand,
military.
right? Say, hey, we need you to come back. We need you to do a 4-year hitch. We need to get things back on track.
So you would try to hire folks who retire maybe from CIA or law
never
enforcement?
CIA.
Never CIA.
Criminals in action. I don't trust any of them.
So
National
no NSA
Security
either?
Agency. Remember, the 51 who signed the paper that said that laptop is Russian disinformation. I don't trust any of them.
So no FBI.
But average men and women who have dedicated their lives, remember, they're retiring at the age of 45. 20 years, and they get a half boat with benefits to the day they die. Come back. Let's figure out a role you can play. And all that experience they took with them, right? They're 45, they're 50. We have guys running for president who are out the caucus in their 80s. And we're having police retire at the age of 45, FBI at 55. That's nuts. Yeah. And then United States Supreme Court judges can be there until 105 and they're going blah, 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 blah. No.
Senators too.
Right. We can encourage some of them to come back. Not do a long shit, but hey, we need your expertise. We could use a good 5 years to get things back on track.
Would you look into tapping some former military generals, colonels, those types of people who have, some intelligence capabilities, who know how to look at those things?
No.
No?
Again, I don't trust them.
Don't trust them either? Okay.
Because remember, they're Pentagon people, as General Eisenhower told us, a.k.a. President Eisenhower, beware of the military-industrial complex. So guys and gals who are in law enforcement, busted their shoes, developed degrees of expertise, them. But Pentagon people, not on your life. Because all they want to do is fill up their portfolio, be on the board of directors, and promote war. That's the one thing I liked about Trump. He didn't get us into any war. No. Democrats, they're always getting us into wars. Always.
We could be on the brink of World War III, depending who you listen to.
They're always getting us into wars. They act like they're the party of peace, but I've yet to live with a Democratic president like LBJ, JFK, let's go right on down the list, who didn't get us into a war. Bill Clinton, right? Hey, in order to cover up for Monica Lewinsky, we're going to send these Scud missiles, into parts unknown. It's like, what? Trump did a great job when it came to that. He kept us out of war.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of conflict in the world right now, so nobody knows what's going to happen.
We're not going to win everything we want. We have a lot of enemies. They live their life differently. Remember, with Bush 43 preemptive strikes, this concept we preemptively destroy your country, and then we create a democracy. How did that work in Iraq? Weapons of mass destruction, right? Oh, preemptive. No. They are they. It may take them a while to evolve. We'll help them. But guess what? They're not us. Stop trying to make the world be America, because some of the world does not want to be like America. Maybe in time they'll evolve.
Sure.
But this preemptive strikes, we're going to kill you and blow you up and hope whoever survives believes in democracy.
It's a little crazy, yeah. I agree.
It's nuts. It's never worked.
No.
It's never worked.
No, we didn't win their hearts and minds.
Correct.
Not most of them, anyway. What would you do? A lot of people are concerned. The property taxes keep going up, the last two mayors. Obviously, you have to deal with the city council and economics of the time, that you're in office and whatnot. And anybody else would have to do that before or after you.
First off, you got to get in and see what kind of a fiscal mess is there. I've lived through Abe Bean, who put us on the brink of a fiscal collapse. And then Ed Koch had to operate under a fiscal control board. One thing I would do, that they say never say, is I would put us under the operation of a financial control board.
Really?
Which bankers invest, unions invest their pensions. This was Felix Roatan and Victor Gottbaum who did it. And it forced the politicians to live within their means. Politicians don't want to live within their means. Not in Washington, not in Albany, not in New York City. They spend money they don't have.
Like a drunk sailor.
Pretty soon, $50 trillion debt.
That's crazy.
Both parties responsible for that. So I would say, when I was a kid, my parents said, you get an allowance. You learn to live with the allowance. And guess what?
You spend too much, tough shit.
I learned to live with the allowance. So I would be a typical politician saying, cut this, do this. How the hell? You get inside, it's going to be a mess. Yeah. It always is, whether it's a Republican who left or a Democrat. It's always a mess.
And until you get in, you don't know.
It's always been two sets of books. The books for you to see and the books we keep. And so I would say, let me get in there. I depend on people who are much brighter than I am when it comes to finances, because again, it would take me an hour to describe to you how to balance my checkbook.
Sure.
And then figure it out long term. What are the commitments we've made? Well, we've made commitments to unions that are like, holy, you say, how are we going to do this? There's a lot that has to go into that. I couldn't answer that.
You talk about the pensions.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that in 30 seconds or a minute. I'd have to go in there and do a deep dive and see it first. And then the fiscal experts would have to say, here's the spreadsheets. Oh, Madonna,
give you some advice.
Do we have a problem here? Okay, and I'm going to say, how do we work our way out of this? And be honest with the people. Be honest with them.
And two more things that have been coming up. All of the speed cameras everywhere now, 24/7, and the congestion pricing that's on hold. Are you for it, against it? What are your thoughts on both those issues that a lot of people feel are money grabs?
Totally opposed. It's all it is a hidden tax. If you go along Woodhaven Boulevard, all you hear is click, 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 click. Highland Boulevard, Staten Island, click, click,
Queens
click.
Boulevard.
And they do it in neighborhoods where they know you got to pay. Now, in some neighborhoods, hey, they know they can't get you to pay. But in a middle class, blue collar, working class area, you need those four wheels. You got to pay or they come for you. So the point being is, I would cancel all that, put that on pause, see what in our budget. Remember, there's $1 billion of tickets built in our budget the year before. Mm-hmm. How do we do this without those $1 billion of tickets? Because at the end of the month, you see at the police department, moving violation and a parking ticket keep the sergeant away. There's quotas. They'll say, no, it's performance guidelines. Yeah. No, for all ticket writers, there are quotas.
Well, we've been told, that's just a hearsay.
My mayor's right, Rudy, that I campaigned for, Bloomberg, lied. They said it was performance guidelines. So did the Democrats. It's a lie.
Of course.
It's a quota. You get in there and you figure out, how do we undo this quota, but still generate revenue so we don't collapse? We may have to be creative. But again, everybody, that's what I would do. You don't know what kind of a mess you're getting into. And guess what? They all get in, and then they say, those are performance guidelines. In fact, in the police department, if you write tickets, you earn more stripes sometimes than if you make collars.
Others have said that before.
Because they're revenue raisers. This city without the revenue raisers out there writing tickets.
So is that a fast track to a white shirt?
Fisk, you're damn right. That's how you get promotions. writing tickets as opposed to making collars.
Be a revenue producer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're not going to hold up Curtis too much. We do appreciate him coming down. One of the most known prolific figures here in the New York area. He did challenge Mr. Adams before. He's not going to say right now. We don't want to put him on the spot, but I'm hoping he does. We do need some change in New York. There's a lot of people suffering, a lot of people leaving, a lot of people that don't want to be here, planning on leaving, a lot of businesses. So we are facing a lot of monumental challenges throughout the boroughs, and we do need somebody to replace Adams. But we're happy Curtis was able to come down today, be candid with us, give us his thoughts, his ideas. He doesn't, he's not a shy guy, so we like to talk, people don't mince their words.
And we want primaries. We want candidates.
Primaries.
We want independent candidates. We want debates.
And we want debates.
We want more candidates, not less candidates. And we don't want a coronation.
So an inclusive guy here. Put the independents on the debate
If you're
too.
not willing to go through a primary, hey, get a job hanging wallpaper because there are no coronations. A republic with a democracy does not have coronations. We have elections, and that requires that people debate and have discussions unless you're afraid. If you're afraid, you won't debate.
I agree. Curtis, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you.
Peter Kafalis with Queen's Voice here at the Jackson Diner with the one and only Curtis Sliwa. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please hit the like or subscribe button if you haven't, and be safe out there.